I want to talk about screen time and spirituality, self-inquiry, because most people think that we're on our screens too much, whether it's your phone or an iPad or even television. But I'm not sure that we really think super hard about what that relationship is. And recently I've been very concerned about the amount of time I'm online, concerned about how much I'm on YouTube watching videos that are probably not so great, scrolling. I personally don't use social media very much, but I know a lot of people use that. We're checking emails left and right. And so obviously we're using our phones a lot. And I'm wondering what that does to our spiritual search. I think that a lot of people have already kind of documented that it's not good for us. And I want to talk about that too. So let's dive in. This all started for me because I've been spending a lot of time watching YouTube videos, not spirituality necessarily, all sorts of things. Really into all the different diet gurus and nutrition, and then just pure entertainment. And of course, people are on social media. And I think that a lot of these different activities, people have kind of documented already how they can cause a challenge. But the more that I think about it, and the more that I look at it in my own life, the more I see that this is a humongous problem. In fact, it may be one of the great obstacles to spirituality in this lifetime. So we know how people have all sorts of difficulty with things that they're looking at online. You know, with social media, people comparing themselves to other people, doom scrolling, feeling terrible about their own lives. That's kind of obvious. We all know about that. We obsessively look at our emails. We're obsessively checking texts. For me, YouTube is humongous, looking at videos all the time. And I think that, you know, it's not easy to go into all of those different activities and look at all of the different conflicts and problems that arise from the content of your phone. I really want to talk more about the phone usage as a whole. And I want to emphasize that I think this is a really important topic. I think that we underestimate what all of this screen time is doing to us, how much conflict it's causing within us, how much anxiety, how much compulsion that it's causing in our lives. And it's gotten to the point for me personally where I've decided to try to limit the type of activity and the amount of activity that I take to my phone. For example, I've deleted most of my apps, except for the ones that I absolutely need. And as far as my activity, I'm trying to create a time limit. And this is not because screen time is bad or I'm going to get ADD. This is because I think there is honestly psychological processes involved here that I want to look into, because I think this is a detriment to my spiritual search and my spiritual progress. So we have this general feeling that using our phones the way we do, being online the way that we do, causes distress in us. We know that. We probably can't always see exactly what it's doing to us, but we know that we don't feel good from using the phones as much as we do. And so from there we generate opinions about that, right? We say the phones are really bad for us. I should stop using these phones. And so we generate these opinions, or we listen to people online giving these opinions to us, and we believe these opinions. So we think about our phones, these opinions, we picture our phone, and we have an opinion. I hate this phone, this stupid phone. These phones are so bad for us. So inherently there's a conflict in that. So the opinions create a conflict. So that's one level of the problem. So developing these opinions about our phone, do they do anything to help us understand the actual problem that our phone is causing? I would say no. I think what one can do is become aware of these opinions, because the opinions create conflict. And so if you can become aware of these opinions, this knowledge that you're generating about your phone, that's part of self-awareness. So if we can put that aside, let's say, you know what, I don't want to generate any opinions about my phone. I don't want to make any kind of conclusions. I don't want to hate my phone. Hating your phone is just more conflict with your phone. Likewise, having the idea in your head, the solution is to get rid of my phone and use flip phones, okay? It's almost an escape. You can certainly try to do that. You haven't understood anything about your relationship with the phone and why this relationship is so problematic. So it's great to be aware of those things, but to me that's not the solution. The solution is to actually understand the relationship, not criticize the relationship, not judge the relationship. So if we can put all of that more superficial knowledge aside, then we can start to look into the actual relationship with the phone. So then what is this relationship? I would say this relationship is a dependency. And I think that if you look into that, you might find that as well. In other words, I have an image of my phone in my head. I think about the phone, and there's an inner compulsion to open up my phone and use it. And I think that's the basis of the relationship, is a need, a dependency. So is it possible to become aware of that dependency on your phone? I think it is. You picture the phone in your head, which gives you the idea that you want to go use the phone, and you go use the phone. How often does that occur? I can tell you that an easy way to see how often it occurs is to somehow take it away from yourself or limit it in some way. And if you do that, you have an opportunity to pay more attention to that compulsion, because if you don't do that, then the compulsion leads to the action. And once you act, the phone is unlocked, and you're using it to do whatever you're going to do. And so some people say it's good to occasionally take something away from yourself to experiment, to see, how much do I really need this? And I can tell you that right now what I'm doing is I'm limiting my sort of browse screen time to about an hour. And I know that's not a little bit of time, but compared to several hours, which is what I typically do, it's been very eye-opening for me to see how often I think of wanting to use my phone. And when you think of wanting to use your phone, that compulsion that is there. Now, if you're not using your phone, you're not jumping away from all of that, and you have the opportunity to be aware of it. And as I've said in other videos, that passive awareness of that compulsion is what might lead to the resolution. I think we need to be careful in this sort of endeavor, because I personally don't think that becoming a monk is the answer to life's problems. And I don't think that taking my phone away from myself entirely is the answer to this problem. The phone is a useful tool for communication, for the various utilities, for some occasional entertainment. It's not like the phone is a bad thing. And I don't think that the right answer is to try to control those urges. You know, you think of your phone and you have the urge to go use it, and then you address that urge with not an opinion, but control, trying to control that urge. I won't use my phone. That's conflict. We don't want conflict in our lives. And this opens up a larger question. And the question is, are we so occupied continually throughout our day that we just have no sense of being, no presence in our lives? And I think that's part of the draw of the phone, is we don't know how to be quiet, present, at peace. We try to sit still and be silent. There's urges, compulsions to do something. So I try to be aware of all of that. That is my practice. That is, to me, self-inquiry, passive self-awareness, is being aware of the need for continual mental occupation. I don't know what quietness can bring, what feeling present and aware can bring, but I know a lot about the occupied mind, because I feel like my mind has been occupied with something or other for the majority of my life. And that isn't bringing me any sense of peace. That is not furthering my spiritual search. And I am certain when I am very, very old, I will not look back in my life and say, you know what? I should have watched more YouTube.